Soulful Sauna, Stories of Self-Mastery. Thank you for joining us. It is you, the viewer, that makes this podcast. Your host, Juliette Noske, and her guests are here to share stories of self-mastery, to inspire you and ignite the power of positive change on your own journey. Thank you for being with us. Hello and welcome to the Soulful Sauna podcast. Today, our very special guest is Nicolas David Ngan, and he is the co-founder of the Center for Conscious Ascension, whose mission is to accelerate the raising of humanity's consciousness as we ascend into higher realms of existence. He trains practitioners in the use of cutting-edge consciousness-raising tools, such as soul contract reading, for aligning to your true soul purpose, divine healing for clearing the pathway ahead in order to achieve this, and light body integration for the embodiment and manifestation of the highest level of a soul's mission here on earth. Author of the Amazon #1 best-selling book, Your Soul Contract Decoded, and he's featured in Gaia.com's Open Minds show with Regina Meredith, and he teaches globally. Welcome, Nicolas.
Hi, Juliette. Thanks for having me on the show. Really looking forward to this.
Thank you for coming. We met quite a while ago now. We met because I came across your book and I came across an interview that I saw of you online, and I was fascinated with this idea of the soul's contract, and that our soul had chosen this journey to learn things in this lifetime. And that really, really resonated with me. And so that's how we got to connect. Ever since then, I have been on this journey of self-discovery, but also supporting clients with their own soul contracts. How did you come across and get into the soul contract reading?
Well, I was at the beginning of my journey into the spiritual sauna of life, and I started traveling around the world in 1987 from New Zealand, just to escape small New Zealand and to see the rest of the world in what we call a overseas expedition or adventure. And was in Southeast Asia for most of 87 and going to a lot of Buddhist exposure in Thailand and Tibet. And then I ended up living in Japan for a couple of years. And then I heard about Frank Alpa, who is the founder of the soul contract work, or he called it the spiritual numerology of Moses. I found out about him from a friend there. And I was given a brochure for a training he did, an annual training called the Carousel of Growth. And I held on to that for about a year, and I ended up in January 1990 in Phoenix, Arizona, walking into this room with 30 people on this spiritual workshop, my first big spiritual workshop. And during that training, he was offering one-on-one sessions, and one of those was to have a soul contract reading or a spiritual numerology of Moses reading. And he took my name, my birth certificate name, and he converted it to ancient Hebrew sounds. We used 22 ancient Hebrew sounds. And out of those popped a whole bunch of numbers because they're inherent within Hebrew. He drew a Star of David, and he distributed the numbers around the Star of David in a clockwise pattern, did a little bit of math, and then he produced the 7 aspects of my life, the soul level of what creates my reality in each moment. And he explained my entire life in that 1 hour, which was profoundly life-changing. And that's how I got introduced to it. And I said to him, where can I learn this, Frank? And he said, well, in 6 weeks, I'm running Carousel of Growth Level 2, and I teach this. So I stayed in America longer and went to that training. And that's when I learned this, I thought I found my calling. I've been looking for my calling for a long time. I was about 30 at that stage. And so I learned it and came to England to become on what I call working holiday visas from Commonwealth countries. And I got a whole bunch of different temp jobs in the city in London. And in the meantime, I was learning the stuff on the weekends and learning how to give readings. And that's how the whole thing started, really. And then eventually I left working in the city because I had a full-time job after the first year in about 97, and I started doing this work full-time, and that's how it's been like that ever since. And I wanted to share it with the world because it was so profoundly life-changing for me. I wanted to share it with others so they could align with their real purpose, that hidden secret of why they're really here, because I've been searching for it for about 15 years. And once I found this, I thought, now I know what I'm here to do. So I've been teaching it and writing the book, Your Soul Contract Decoded, and being very privileged to go on Gaia to share the work. That's reached a lot of people. And raising consciousness, really. So that's what I've been up to. It's a sort of summary of the past 30 years, 40 years.
And would you say that the soul contract reading has developed over that time?
Yes, well, Frank just in the carousel workshop, he just talked about it in snippets, the work, and he gave us about 12 pages of notes about it. I took a lot of notes over that time, and I assembled this all together and gave lots of readings, started teaching this work in 1994, 4 years later, and then gradually expanded it. And then Almira Ariel Haller, who co-founded the Center for Conscious Ascension with me, when we got together, we jointly expanded it from those sort of 12 pages and all these notes into what you see in the book, which is a subset of the level 1 training manual. So it grew into about, 2 100-page manuals plus a lot of support material. So it grew into about 300 plus pages of material based upon all our years of giving lots of readings and getting lots of feedback from people of what was their subjective experience and what the sound of their name is creating for them. And we developed lots of recommendations on how to work through those issues contained in our soul contract, our challenges, our karmic challenges, and how to align with our true purpose, how to master the ego, which is a bit of a bucking wild bronco initially for most of us, creating all sorts of stuff we don't like initially, and how to bring consciousness to those patterns and to realize it's just programming that's here to be transmuted, to be mastered, really, and how to become more and more conscious of it and how to align with the flow of where our soul wants to take us rather than fighting it, which is what most people do, which is why life is very challenging. So mastering our ego, mastering our soul contract by understanding what it is, and aligning to the flow of spirit, what we call the spiritual signature, where in each moment there's one right action that we take. And if we do that, and it's our heart opens to it, which is the soul telling us this is the right action. If we follow that, life flows with grace and ease. It's not the same sort of struggle. Things come to us at the right time, and we become very attuned to the soul. And so that journey to mastery has been very powerful, where it's about letting go and surrendering the ego and opening to the higher consciousness coming from our soul. So that's sort of how my journey of mastery really started. It's been a very long one, but life is a lot more aligned and happier than it used to be as a result.
So a lot of people are seeking a magic pill, as it were, a magic answer. But what you're sharing there, I can tell that it takes work, and it takes, like you say, it takes mastery and it takes time. And so what would be your advice to someone? Because I know we'd all love something magically to click into place. However, it's more for me, this journey of self-mastery is a journey, and it's something that we're constantly on. And I remember having my soul contract reading, and it opened up so much, and I'm still today, unfolding all the different layers of that and working with what arises and what opens up on my own journey. So do you have any advice for someone who is seeking, I guess, the magic answer, on their journey?
Well, first you've got to, in order to reach mastery, you need to understand what you need to master, which is the ego, which is the dissolution of the ego. I wrote the book, Your Soul Contract Decoded, as the manual that I would have liked when I was 19 when I started waking up. It took me another 43 years to actually write. I'm 43 till I wrote the book. So find out what your soul contract is first, because then you know what's creating your reality. And once you know what's creating your reality, and then you can also work out you learn from the book, what do I need to do to dissolve my karmic patterns or the challenges we face, because we're here to transmute those patterns into our gifts of service. So all the hard stuff we face is actually the answer to our questions, what am I here to do, which all light workers ask. And every human asks that, and there's not a great deal of answers to that. Okay, so that'll be the place I'd start. You can find out more about the book at yoursoulcontractdecoded.com. Okay, it goes to the website page, which explains what the book can do for you. It's a very accessible way to discover what you're here to master. And the book will give you a complete structure of what's creating your reality, and most importantly, what do you do about it? How can you transmute it to achieve that mastery gradually? That'll be the starting place, and you can generate your chart at a website called soulcontractreader.com. First 4 charts are free, so you generate your chart based on your birth certificate name. Then read the book, and the book will explain what it means, and then you're underway. That's the most easily accessible way of doing it. Requires a bit of work, but you learn a lot about yourself, and then you realize what are the 20% of things you need to focus on in life, with 80% of your effort, not the other way around, because most people are going off in all different directions, often not aligned with the soul, and it's very much hard work and painful at times, because we actually don't know what's going on initially, because we're meant to go to sleep here in this matrix, and to see if we can wake up, to see if we can discover what we're here to do and align to the path of the soul. Because when you are following that spiritual signature of life, opens with much more grace and ease. Not saying it's easy, but it's a lot easier when you know what's going on. Most people are driving around in the dark in their car. We were talking about cars earlier, with the headlights off, no idea where they're going. So what's going to happen? You're going to crash a lot. Whereas what we're doing here is we're turning the lights on. We're switching on the spiritual sat nav. Here's where you're meant to go, and it's going to guide you. So we're going in the right direction for a change. So that'd be the first thing I'd suggest to people.
And what are the advantages of working with a practitioner to work through your soul contract profile?
Well, the book is designed, we designed it so it was easily accessible, and it gives you the interpretation, the interpretations are in the book, but a practitioner is another step. It's where a practitioner can work out exactly where you are in your life, how you got to where you were, and answer the very specific questions about your challenges you face in life. Or what brings people to this work often is they're facing a very big karmic challenge, and it's very painful, and they know they have to deal with it. They can't avoid it anymore. So it helps find out exactly where someone is in their process in their soul contract, and most importantly, can laser target the right recommendations on how do we address these issues which are right in your face at the moment. I mean, life down here is very challenging because of that. It's meant to be, to get our attention. And then the practitioner can make the correct recommendations on where you are in the path and answer a lot of the questions which no one else can answer of the depth of knowledge of this work. And then you can have a plan, an action plan, a prioritized action plan on how to move forward. That's where a practitioner comes in. Okay. Because from their experience, lots of experience, they can see what will be the best recommendations, what will be the best way of moving forward from whatever place you're in, especially if you're stuck. Because we can't find a solution to the challenge that we face in life from the level of consciousness that we bring to it. We need someone with a higher level of truth, higher level of consciousness to guide us in moving forward, which is what the work is about.
And if you think back in your life, who are some of the the key personas, the key people that were there to kind of guide you, and not necessarily just in the soul contract work, but even before that, who were the key people that were there to support you and guide you and show you the way, I guess, on your own spiritual path?
I read a lot of Neale Donald Walsch books, like Conversations with God and Happier Than God, when I was awakening. Shirley MacLaine books, they were the first ones I was reading. Seth Speaks and things like that. But I think Neale Donald Walsch was wonderful, especially the book Happier Than God, because it taught me about the law of opposites. And one day, this where you get everything you don't want, so you can work out what you do want. And then I realized, once I learned the subcontract really work, he's talking about the karmic patterns. And then I realized, the karmic pattern is manifesting the opposite of what I want. So therefore, I took that concept and taught people how to embrace their karma and transmute it. Because the answer to the question they're asking is in the hardest place that they want to avoid. It's actually right there. Like me, for example, I have a 3 in the subcontract work, which is about being unworthy to be loved and to express. And so I worked on transmuting that unworthiness over many years, which allowed me to become a writer and a communicator and a teacher of the work. So that was a very powerful influence. I remember that really clearly when I read his book. It was like a big light bulb went on. Who else? That'd be the main ones. And after that, I just sort of just focused on developing and expanding the work. So people could grow. Did a lot of readings, but I've actually stopped doing readings now. I'm focusing on running trainings, training practitioners in the work, because I could only reach so many people, and after 35 years of doing readings, it's time to sort of hand the mantle to the next generation of teachers of the work, which is what we're doing at Centre for Conscious Ascension. We have the next generation teachers who are keen to get out there. So I'm focusing on training the trainers, teaching teachers at the moment. It's my main focus.
Yeah.
Because they bring their own unique view on it, and they can reach a lot more people, and also teaching different languages as well. It's being taught in Japanese. We hope to teach it in Vietnamese and Chinese. We've got the Vietnamese and Chinese manuals. They're mostly finished. And hopefully we'll have more European languages like Spanish in the future. So trying to reach as many people as possible. That's what we're doing with it.
Wonderful. Do you happen to remember the first point in your life that kind of opened you up, like a pivotal moment to your own journey of self-mastery?
I had a very good, I had an uncle and aunt, and they were sort of keeping an eye on me, and they suggested I go to a workshop called The Turning Point, which was when I was in my early 20s in New Zealand. And that's when I discovered I had a lot of childhood stuff that had been very suppressed. And it was very profound connecting to that, because I'd been trying to avoid all this stuff. I wasn't very conscious at that stage. I remember that was a profound awakening going in that training, when I felt the pain of childhood come up in me, from all my karmic disempowerment karmic patterns. That was the beginning of realizing there's a lot of stuff I've got to work on here. I've been asleep, been unconscious in this space of denying everything, but only realized that afterwards, numbing everything out. That was the beginning of the awakening, and then probably 3-4 years later, I left New Zealand to travel and to get exposed, especially to Buddhism and stuff like that, in all sorts of different cultures. And then I went to the Carousel of Growth workshops, and that's when things really started happening. There was a lot of healing processes going on there as well. So it's a gradual process, and awakening to another level, and the sort of steps, another level of consciousness. So breaking free of a lot of the restrictions of the ego of the soul contract. And it's only when I saw them in the rearview mirror I realized what this program was doing, because it seemed normal to me. It was like as it does to all of us. It's just life the way it is. It's a bit like the goldfish in the tank of water, which is being heated up. You don't realize it's hot emotionally until you get out. So I've had that regularly. That's what's been going on. So it's an ongoing process, really, of more and more revelations of who I am and what's going on.
Yeah, I think I've been having conversations with various people recently, and they've been sharing how, for example, something happened from their childhood, whether it was, being hit, or whether it was constant arguing, or, whatever it was in their childhood. And for them, they thought that was normal. And they had no idea that, there was anything different out there until later on in life, when they kind of were opened up to other possibilities and other ways that other people lived, and then realized that perhaps the way that they lived, wasn't the only way, and was possibly quite damaging for them. And yes, it is like that sometimes, where we can look back and we can see it much more clearly. Yeah. And so are there things, so if you imagine you were going to speak to your younger self, maybe your 19-year-old self, you mentioned, if your 19-year-old self could have had that book, is there one thing that you would tell your 19-year-old self?
I would say have your soul contract read, understand what's been created, understand that all those it's what's creating your experience, and how none of it ultimately is real. It's just a program we're running through, especially like being disempowered in my case, and which I thought was normal. I didn't even think about it as normal. It was just the way it was until I stepped out of the trauma bubble of all that childhood disempowerment and abuse, and realized, well, that's really off. That's not right at all. And then I started seeing a different world once I progressively stepped out of those trauma bubbles, those disempowerment bubbles. So I've been through that a lot. And I'd explain it to him, and just learn what creates your reality, and then step back and take a helicopter view of what's really going on. That's what I would do. Seek some help, seek experience from someone who's more conscious, who can see what's going on. So you got a reference point. Don't try and work it all out by yourself, because it's hard when you're in a bubble of whatever to even understand you're in a bubble until someone shows you something else. So I think objective intervention, have managed objective intervention. That's what I would suggest to someone at 19, and as much as they can handle that. That would be the key message I'd give. And just know that everything can be changed once you work through the issues presenting your soul's creating for you in your subjective reality.
What about the times that we're in now? Because they're quite different from, I guess, when we were younger. Obviously, technology is speeding ahead, and telephones, we're attached to our telephones. What would you think is important for the younger generation, apart from having their soul contract reading done? How can we support them? Do you have any views on that?
I think it's important to be very grounded and not distracted by all the noise, electronic noise on social media, and all the weird and wonderful ideas imposed upon us through the media. Many not conducive to raising consciousness. And get back to the essentials of being grounded. Meditate, connect to higher consciousness, ground into that. Learn to feel the spiritual signature. Emotionally clear yourself enough so you can feel what opens your heart the most, and follow that flow, because it's soul telling us we would like to go, and not be, I will call it, not be infected by a lot of the digital noise out there, most of which is not conducive to raising consciousness. In fact, it's trying to do the opposite. and follow the signature, and not get into being addicted to devices, because they're not good for us. And be present within ourselves. Be aware when programming comes up from the soul contract. Learn how to clear it. Learn how to emotionally clear it. When we have something called divine healing, which sessions are offered in, but also you can learn it yourself. So you can clear the issues that come up, because they come out in layers, like I'm peeling an onion. Clear the issues, and the more you clear your ego, the more self-mastery you'll achieve, and the more aligned you'll be with the soul. So you and learn to feel and connect to that intuitive channel and feeling in the body what is right. And the more you do that, that's how you achieve self-mastery and eventually full dissolution of the ego. And we become the walking, talking expression of the soul. And then we're much more immune to the external interference from the matrix, which is trying to keep us asleep. It's trying to keep us asleep, or we're trying to wake up. Okay, it's trying to control us. We seek sovereignty and freedom, and that comes from following the spiritual signature. Because in this human form, there's a limit to how conscious we can be. So we have to, through especially meditation, connect to the higher self's guidance, and it sees a much bigger picture of where we're headed. And if we follow that, life will unfold and flow. It's not something we can work out. We've got to actually let go and surrender to the flow of our spirit, because we are spirit having a human experience, a limited human experience. It's about remembering that's actually what's going on. And our soul is learning from the process, but we have the free will choice to grow or not grow, to be conscious or unconscious. So that's what I'd share. And then we all have a plan. There's a spiritual map of life from the soul contract. And the clearer we are emotionally, the more we listen to ourselves, intuition, the more you align with that plan. That's how life will unfold. It's not something we have to go and work out. It's something we have to be open to and surrender to. Because everyone say, I've got to work out what I'm here to do. It's more like surrender to what is going to come through us. It's a different process. People get very stressed trying to work out what am I here to do, because they're trying to think about it with the left brain. It's about moving into the feminine right brain, just opening and feeling inside what is next, and that will give you a lot better answer. We have a society which is very hollowed out in terms of emotional depth and connection, because of the way technology has gone and the way the forces in the world, we call them forces of separation or darkness. We have to have them in a matrix to see, can we break through them to wake up? Can we get back to God and consciousness? It happens on every planet. There's sentient lives in its own unique way, and we're no exception.
It highlights what many spiritual teachers share, which is that if it's feeling like it's a struggle, then it's probably not the right way. It doesn't mean that it won't be challenging or difficult, but it should open and flow. So when you know when you're on the right path, because it opens and it flows and it unfolds. And yes, you still meet challenges or obstacles, but there's not that kind of, when you're trying and it's struggling, then it's probably because that's not the right path for you. And like you say, it's that surrendering into it that really allows it to open and flow. And I've certainly noticed that in my own life. I would love you to explain a little bit more for the viewers out there about the spiritual signature that you speak of.
Okay. So our ego believes, created by our soul contract, believes it's in charge and wants to stay in charge because it's scared of God in a spiritual sense, because it's scared if I let go, control, and let God take over, I'm going to die. I'll be annihilated. That's its greatest fear. But actually, following the path of the ego is the path of suffering, as the Buddha says, because you've only got a 50% chance of getting it right if you follow the mind, the left brain. And that's not good odds, toss of a coin. And the spiritual signature is about dissolving as much of the ego as possible, following the flow of spirit by meditating, especially connecting to higher consciousness and doing allowing the soul to communicate to us through bodily sensation. So if you're trying to make a decision on what to do, okay, pistachio ice cream, say, versus chocolate ice cream, what you do is you just try it on in your heart, and the heart will open. You feel the heart open to the one which is a spiritual signature, which might be pistachio today, or whatever it is, something more significant usually. And if we open to that and follow that, when you flow into pistachio, it'll go gracefully. If we went for the chocolate, we might get indigestion because it was the wrong frequency that day. So by following what opens the heart the most, if you've got several choices, you try them all on, and one of them will open the heart the most, and the soul will tell you. So you visualize or feel that reality. So you try and choose what to do in your heart. The heart will open the most, and you follow that. It'll go gracefully, it'll work. And then you wait for the next time, next decision, see which one opens the heart the most. And that's called following the signature. It takes time because the mind will be scared of losing control. It's about gradually letting go and trusting that signature. Actually, trusting God, really, trusting Spirit. Spirit's a part of us, not in the body. It's the bit between the soul and higher consciousness and all that is through these 12-dimensional levels of who we are. But we're very focused on the third-dimensional level in this reality. But it's allowing the higher parts of us at the fourth, fifth, sixth-dimensional levels to actually guide us. And we do that. It's about just being still and waiting. Okay, what am I doing next? And nothing comes, just wait. And then there's a feeling, oh, we're going to do that now. And then you do it and you find it works. And sometimes it might seem from a 3D human perspective, that's a crazy idea. That, in fact, that's hazardous or whatever. If you do it, it does work and you realize higher consciousness, my higher self, knows a lot better because it can see the future. Okay, because there's no time or space. It sees all the potentials and it's trying to help us go on the greatest potential in terms of raising consciousness to get back in consciousness to God. It takes a lot of practice. It takes practice. So
I usually recommend that clients practice it on something small to begin with, something without such emotional intensity.
Yeah.
And then build it up over time. And like you say, it can be that when it's something that society or your family or your mind is saying, essentially it's your mind is saying that your family or the society will think that that you are crazy if you go that way. And sometimes it can be such a huge leap of faith, for sure.
It requires a lot of trust.
Yeah.
Requires a lot of trust. Once things start working out and flowing, you realize, hey, this stuff works. Then you relax more and then need to trust it more. And so sometimes you're not doing even way out there things, but they work.
Yeah.
So it's all about divine timing. And so we're actually not in charge. Ultimately, we have a free will choice to follow the spiritual signature or not. But our job is basically to surrender, dissolve the ego, surrender, and allow the higher consciousness part of us to embody and have this human experience because it wants to have that experience because it's when we're in these bodies that the intensity of emotion is how the soul learns fastest. So we might as well learn with the good stuff, what we're here to really do, rather than do all the things the ego wants to do, which is ending up being very painful most of the time. For example, when I first started learning this, Amira used to take me on the street. We lived in North London. And we'd be at the street corner and she'd say, okay, feel, do we go left or do we go right? What opens your heart most? We did a lot of walking around North London like this till I learned what would flow. In my mind, I thought, this is crazy. What's she on about? She's mad. But that's how I started to learn it. Follow the signature. It was a clear choice. Go down, stay on the side of the road, cross over. And after a while, when you start doing that, you can apply it to every step in life. What's next? Like I had a feeling yesterday or the day before, okay, time for Juliette and I to do this call because we had got postponed multiple times for all sorts of reasons. And then my high dimensional team guy said, you got to get on with the call because we're running a training this week starting the 19th of September. So let's promote the training. Let's just get it out there. You're back from holidays. Let's just do this. Let's just share this work. It's time to get up and running again. So there just happened to be a slot today. So I thought that's really close because previously it was hard to find something that would work. It just popped in the right place. because I had the feeling to do it, and here we are talking. It just sort of just happened because it was time. It wasn't time earlier.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about the podcast, I'd love to ask you a soulful sauna question. So, do you have an interesting sauna story that you'd love to share with us?
Yeah, I do an infrared sauna at home, and I play holosync brainwave meditation from centerpoint.com, sound or music. And basically it takes me into a delta and a gamma brainwave state, into unity. And whenever I have an insurmountable issue that my third dimensional left brain couldn't figure out, I'd stop struggling. I'd just go and do meditation in the sauna with the holosync, and I would just surrender and let go. I just open, and because I was in this unified Zen-like state, which is what it does, that had just been 20 years in Zen meditation. What would often happen to seemingly really complex, knotty issues is that an answer will just drop in. And when you hear it, it's like, well, that's obvious. And that's a unique way. I never thought about that. And then I'd go off and do it, and it would work immediately. So that happens to be quite a lot in the sauna, actually. So I stopped trying to work out what to do. I just surrender and allow what is meant to happen to come through me, not entrust it. That's actually how I connect to the answers, because it's very easy to get lost in this 3D world and be rushing around trying to make it all happen. It's about allowing, opening, and surrendering to what is meant to happen, which is usually a different thing altogether. So that's how I use the sauna, because it's nice and warm, and also I'm in a high state of consciousness. It releases a lot of stress as well, and it's very centering and allows me to see from a higher perspective what is next. What is the next divine move here?
And so it's an infrared sauna, is it?
It's an infrared sauna, yeah. Yeah. I just converted one of the wardrobes, half a wardrobe in my bedroom, into an infrared sauna.
That sounds great. What is a crazy but true fact about you?
I'm a visitor from elsewhere coming to raise consciousness, and I've always felt I remember looking down on Earth before I came here, and then embodying. I came here to raise consciousness. My soul did, and what happened was that I had what's called a walk-in. I walked into this body when I was only 12. The body was only 12, and it was because it wasn't possible to incarnate at the time of conception, because my mother would have had a miscarriage because of the frequency difference between who I am here, this soul, the walk-in soul, and who the first soul was. So yeah, I came here on a mission to raise consciousness, and to observe and change, bring higher frequency tools through. So I never really feel like I fit in to this place. Pretty strange stuff goes on here. Just the way humans seem pretty strange to me. But I've learned how they worked eventually. But yeah, here to share these higher consciousness tools of soul contract reading and divine healing, and something we call light body integration, for understanding the path we take, the soul contract reading, divine healing to clear the pathway emotionally, and light body integration to embody that higher consciousness I've been talking about. So to share that triad of tools really to help light workers wake up. So yeah, so I sort of feel a little once removed from a lot of things that go on down here, because it's just the civilization ascending, and there's always chaos, as there is now in the world as we ascend. A whole bunch of old matrix programming is basically breaking down really rapidly. So here to bring that higher frequency in, because the way to create positive change is to bring higher consciousness in, because it transmutes lower consciousness, and to raise the frequency of as many people as possible in the process, because then collectively we change the matrix to something a lot better, to create a better world. And ascend, which basically means progressively moving through, we're in the third dimension, progressively moving through the dimensions of the civilization back to God, so back to the 12th dimension. It takes billions of years for civilizations to grow, to do that, species to grow. So that's how I see myself. So that's the strange factoid.
And what impact, so for example, your birth certificate name, when that soul, that body was born, is that the same name that you've always had?
Well, once I learned this work, and Mira and I figured out about name optimization, where you could craft a new name by listening to the higher self that would overcome the karmic and goal issues in the birth certificate name. It's like the cake of our life, that name. So you put a new name in which the soul was designed, you to tune into it, which is what happens in name optimization, which could overcome a lot of the karmic patterns a lot more quickly, but also, depending on your free will choice, help you manifest the mission, the life you want. So that's why it's gone from the birth certificate name of Nicolas Ngan to the optimal name of Nicolas David Ngan. And that actually, I've had that name for about nearly 20 years, but it's radically changed my life. It led to this best-selling book and global teaching business and waking up a lot of people, which is what it was designed to do. So yeah, I'm basically reprogramming my reality, which is what it can do. You're changing your programming. You don't lose your birth certificate name, but you adjust and refine consciously what you want to create in your reality. I've been looking for the name for 2 years, but it came to me. A client wrote to me twice in 2 weeks calling me David. No one had ever done that. So I mentioned, you better check that. And when I did, it was really exquisite, the actual numbers to help create the last 20 odd years of my life in terms of this mission. I wouldn't have got here without that new name, because the other one was a much harder name to deal with. Create a lot of heavy duty karmic stuff.
Fascinating how that coincidence appeared.
Well, when you hear something twice in this field, you pay attention. Second time, better pay attention here. That was no accident.
So where do you how do you see your school of consciousness progressing?
Yeah, the Center for Conscious Ascension is we've been going now for a good 25, 27 years. So it's now time to hand over to the next generation of teachers, because I've been teaching for a good 30 years. And yeah, the next generation of teachers is here, and they're very enthusiastic, very capable. So my main focus, as I said earlier, is training them to take over all of my trainings, so we can, and also in different languages as well, and regionally, so we can expand, run more trainings in the Americas, Europe, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. So it's quite exciting. I have a lot of people come along on our trainings and they practice delivering parts of the trainings, like in soul contract and divine healing, and eventually light body. So that the decades of work that I put into this with our Mira Ariel Hilaire, who co-founded the business, are going to be passed on. It's not lost to the world when we're gone. It's continuing it. So yeah, my main focus is creating a multi-generational vehicle to continue the work to raise consciousness. That's my main focus.
And do you think that the I guess the message or the soul contract reading kind of design will change? Because I know one of the things that was interesting, you begin to notice themes in generations with specific numbers. Can you tell us a bit more? Like, so have you noticed, as the generations come along, it's the same when I taught at school, for example, different year groups would have a different theme about them. And then,
oh yeah, that's all true with the soul contract work. The millennials and crystal children, they all have different themes that they follow. You can see it in the numbers, and it's different by country as well. So you see souls have certain repeating patterns in a particular country, in a particular age range, that comes through. So yeah, they're always changing. I mean, it's moving towards very powerful, highly sensitive, highly conscious beings coming through who need to have a bit of karmic stuff to understand how it works, but mostly once they work through that, which is can be at a very young age, even in their 20s, they get on with the real mission. Whereas our generation is like we have to spend a lot more time slogging through all the karma because we were born at a much denser time. So yes, you do see clear patterns in the numbers and the soul contract work like that.
And do you think eventually the work will then change or grow with that, and perhaps?
Um, yeah, the interpretation base, it keeps expanding. It's a very open system within the boundaries of the overall structure of a particular set of numbers. But yeah, we learn more all the time. Practitioners are coming to me often with new things they've discovered. So it's not a closed system. It's a very open system. And the more people work with it, the more we learn. We're always learning something new about things. They tell me things in my practice I've not heard of before, but then I start seeing it happening. So, oh, well, that actually does work. That pattern does work. So yeah, it's always evolving, this sort of work.
You shared a little bit about self-mastery and how finding out your soul contract is the first step to kind of know what you're working with. Is there anything else that you would like to share around that, and what will happen as a result of people working on their soul contract?
Well, when you get aligned, as you dissolve the ego with this work and one in conjunction with divine healing work, you can find it all on our website, centerforconsciousascension.net. I mean, the soul contract basically lays out the spiritual map of life we're here to travel on, and you can work out yourself or with a practitioner where exactly you are on the map. And divine healing clears that map of the emotional blockages. So it's about aligning with the soul contract, clearing the issues that come up, rather than letting them stew and keep you stuck. Then you move forward to the next level. So it sort of comes in waves. Programs come up to be cleared emotionally, clear them. You got some clear open space, you progress. Another program comes up. So it's about progressively bringing consciousness to the layers of your contract. And as a result of that, and clearing them, as a result of that, you align much more to the spiritual signature. Life flows with grace and ease, much more. Things just turn up. Life becomes more delightful rather than harder. A lot of people not on the spiritual path, life becomes very hard because their contracts are ossifying, they're congealing, and so they get stuck, and they're usually pretty unhappy as a result of that. So this is about becoming lighter, younger at heart, and even physically, because you're clearing your programs and having more joy in life. And so by following spirit, that's the key thing to it, really. And it's not something you can work out. It's not something the Matrix is going to tell you how to do, because it doesn't want you to do any of that.
Fantastic. So is there one last piece of advice that you would like to share with the audience before we finish today?
I would say stepping back from all the distractions of the Matrix, meditating will be key. And we're going to share what's called the unified chakra as part of this podcast. There's a written form of it, plus there's a recording. If you can unify your field, which is connecting from this third dimension all the way up to the 14th dimension or 12th dimension where God is, or sources, if you can stay in that field each day, follow and listen to the impulse that comes to you. I'd recommend the holosync process, meditation process, so you're in the Zen meditative state. Know your soul contract and follow it. Know what's being presented. Have a live reading. And Juliette does live readings. Have a live reading so you understand what's really going on. You understand where you are, because you're not going to know where you are before you can work out where you're going to go next. Get healing done on it, like with divine healing, whatever healing modality you have, to peel that contract out. Then you become more conscious. Then you can flow more. That'd be the key things I'd say at the end. And that's the path, or one pathway to self-mastery, out of the complexities of the matrix and the challenges of it. Not saying there won't be any more challenges, just that you'll be better equipped to deal with them.
Yeah.
Because the answer is by opening to higher consciousness. Yeah. So that's what I'd leave you with, everybody.
Well, thank you very much, Nicholas. And it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And I feel very honored. And I can see you shining brightly from the center of your being. So it's really wonderful to have your bright shining light here on Earth.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me, Juliette. This was fun.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Soulful Sauna podcast. We appreciate your continued support. Feel free to leave us a rating, share with your family, friends and loved ones. I have a question to leave you with. What inspired you from today's podcast, and what actions are you going to take as a result? Time to tell your own story of self-mastery.